everybody, my name is Tanya and hey, it's a book haul. So as I mentioned in my October wrap up, I went to Sydney for a work conference in the middle of October and I visited some bookstores when I was up there because of course I did, and so I went on a little mini bookshop crawl through the centre of Sydney, and these are the books that came home with me. So the first bookstore I went to was something I have heard mentioned by people who are obviously Sydney booktubers, and that is Kinokuniya, which is a bookstore that has an extensive, I think, Japanese and Chinese language collection as well as English. It's absolutely humongous. I spent ages wandering around in there and everything was just so beautiful and I wanted it all. I think I described this at the time as a haul of short, beautiful books I've never heard of with some influence by Mercedes. And so I came out of that store with 5 books and let's get into it. First one I picked up was something that I think was misshelved, and it was just sitting on top of some other books in a shelf, and I randomly picked it up and just it sounded fascinating and it came home with me. So that one is Eat Him If You Like by Jean Toulet, I'm not quite sure, and it's a novel that was originally published in French. It was translated by somebody whose name I've already forgotten, but Michael, I tried. It was translated from the French by Emily Phillips. This one, the cover of it just jumped out at me, but then I read the blurb and yeah. So I'm just going to read you the blurb because that's what sucked me into, and it talks about it better than I can about books that I've not read yet. So that's just going to be what this book haul is today, I think, but let's go with that. The Perigord. A beautiful August day. Kind, well-respected young nobleman Alain de Monays sets off happily for the local fair at nearby Hautefeuille. But this is the summer of 1870, a time of terrible drought and even worse defeats for France in the Franco-Prussian War. One misheard comment at the fair sets in motion a horrific train of events that Alain, for all his popularity, is powerless to stop. Based on a shamefully brutal incident from French history, Jean Toulet's riveting story shows how easily a group of individuals can turn into an irrational, bloodthirsty mob. And I presume that overheard comment is Eat Him If You Like, but who knows? I think that sounds fantastic and I'm looking forward to getting into this. Next up, we see the Mercedes influence become apparent, and that is Don't Tie This at Home by Angela Redmond, and this is a short story collection. The cover of this one is absolutely stunning, like all the books I bought at Kinokuniya are, but this is just beautiful, and I've heard Mercedes talk about this one, just rave about it, and it sounds fantastic. The story that I remember the most from her description is about a woman who cuts her boyfriend in half so she can have 2 of them to do things, and then she kind of keeps cutting him and cutting him and cutting him and, you know, multiplying and multiplying, and yeah, that sounds really interesting, but the rest of this sounds great too, so I'm hoping I can get to this soon. Again, it's a tiny little thing and it's just stunning and it came home with me as well. Next is another one I had never heard of before seeing it on the shelf, but it just jumped out at me and here it is, and that is Gone to the Forest by Katie Kitamura. And just look at this cover, it's just so beautiful, and again the blurb really stood out to me, so it just came home with me. And again, I'm just going to read you the blurb because so it says, a gripping and psychologically intense novel about the destruction of a family, a farm and a way of life. Set on a struggling farm in a fiercely beautiful colonial country teetering on the brink of civil war, this second novel by one of international literature's rising young stars weaves a brilliant tale of family drama and political turmoil. Since his mother's death 10 years earlier, Tom and his father have fashioned a strained peace on their family farm. Everything is frozen under the old man's vicious, relentless control. Even, Tom soon discovers his own future. When a young woman named Corinne enters their lives, the complex triangle of intrigue and affection escalates the tension between the 2 men to breaking point. After a catastrophic volcanic eruption ignites the nation's smouldering discontent into open revolution, Tom, his father and Corinne find themselves questioning their loyalties to one another and their determination to salvage their way of life. So I thought that sounded fantastic and I bought this too. Next up I have Sulfuric Acid by Emily Nothomb, which is another one that was originally published in French, and this one was translated by Sean Whiteside. This one is about a reality TV death camp, so there's that. And basically I don't think there's any more I can say about it. That's what really sold me on this, to work out how, you know, that turns into a book. Again, it's a tiny little thing. The cover is just beautiful and I'm really looking forward to reading this one too. And lastly from Kinokuniya I have Princess Barry by Hoang Sok Yong, and this one was translated by Sora Kim Russell. This one again jumped out at me because of the cover. It's just stunning, but once I read the description it sounded great too. So again, I'm just going to read you the blurb. Princess Barry tells the story of a young girl, frail and brave, who escapes from famine and death in North Korea in the 1990s. Seeking refuge in China before crossing oceans in the hold of a cargo ship, she disembarks in London with its bewildering mix of cultures, religions and languages. In this foreign city, Barry finds work as a masseuse, but she doesn't just heal the body, she also comforts souls, having learnt from her beloved grandmother to read the pain and nightmares of others. Alone in a strange land, Barry will have to fight through pain and deepening sadness to find the love and will to stay alive. With Princess Barry, Hwang Sak-yong entwines old Korean myth which tells of an abandoned princess travelling to the ends of the earth to find the elixir of life that will bring peace to the souls of the dead, with the ethereal and haunting backdrop of the modern world. And so again, this sounds absolutely fantastic, and it came home with me as well. And the next store I visited was the Central Sydney Dymocks, which is kind of the main bookstore chain that's left here in Australia. Just thought I'd have a bit of a look around and see what it was like. I like to visit like bigger ones because the ones that are close to me are quite small, so it was good to go in there. But I did end up buying one book while I was there, and that is The Night Watch by Sarah Waters. This was the last Sarah Waters book that I didn't yet own, so when I saw it on the shelf there I had to grab it. I've looked in my local Dymocks and other bookstores and they didn't have this one, and I wanted to purchase this one in person, so I got a matching set of Sarah Waters books. This one is quite papery, where some of the other ones I've got are a little bit more smooth, but the covers match, so I'm definitely happy with that. This one is set in London during World War II and follows the stories of 4 characters. It sounds wonderful, as all Sarah Waters books do, and yes, hopefully I will read this one soon. And the last bookstore I went to was kind of a twofer, and that was Abby's Books, and then upstairs in Abby's there is a kind of sci-fi and fantasy specific section which is called the Galaxy Bookshop, and so I browsed around both of those. I ended up buying one book from the Abby's Books section of it, and the book that I bought there was The Guest Cat by Takashi Hiradi, and this one was translated by Eric Selland. This one I heard about first from Jen at Jen Campbell. She turned out not to actually enjoy this one very much at all, but I still think this one sounds really fascinating, and I'm looking forward to reading it. And the cover of this one also is gorgeous, with the little glowing eyes on the cat down there. And with most of the others in this haul, I'm just going to read you the blurb. A couple in their 30s live in a small rented cottage in a quiet part of Tokyo. They work at home as freelance writers. They no longer have very much to say to one another. One day a cat invites itself into their small kitchen. She is a beautiful creature. She leaves, but the next day she comes again, and then again and again. New small joys accompany the cat. The days have more light and colour. Life suddenly seems to have more promise for the husband and wife. They go walking together, talk and share stories of the cat and its little ways, play in the nearby garden. But then something happens that will change everything again. And so, despite the fact that Jen, and I think also Holly at Library at the Edge of the World, didn't really enjoy this one all that much, I'm still looking forward to it. And yeah, that was the last book that I bought while I was in Sydney. I just realised there was one more thing that I had to show for my haul from Kinokuniya, and I'll have to go see whether I can grab it from somewhere. And that was this bookish tote bag, because you can never have too many tote bags, right? And this is obviously a Cheshire Cat tote bag, and once I saw it I just fell in love with it, and it came home with me. Can you say it along with me? They had lots of lovely tote bags there, but this is the one that really jumped out at me, and I have been using this to take some stuff to work with me, and it's really sturdy and lovely and just gorgeous. So these are the books that I purchased when I was in Sydney. If you've read any of these ones or have any questions, or if there are some that you think I should get to sooner rather than later, do let me know. As always, thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.